Hello friends, welcome back to our channel Adamya Education. Today we are going to discuss about cell organelles. This is a part of biology. Hope you are going to enjoy the session. Let's begin. So what are cell organelles? We know that generally we always discuss about plant and animal cells, and more or less you have an idea what are the different structures which are present in the plant and the animal cell, or how are they different from one another. So there are certain specialized structures in the cells which perform some specific functions. Those are known as cell organelles, and without the cell organelles the cell's operation and survival, or even the survival and the operation of the organism, is not going to happen. So cell organelles are very important structures in the cell. Although they are very tiny, they are extremely essential for the overall working of the cell and the organism as a whole. So first of all, we are going to begin with the cell membrane. The cell membrane is the outermost covering in animal cell, and it is one of the covering in plant cell. Now let's see, as you can see in the diagram, this is an animal cell, the top one, and this outer membrane is known as the cell membrane. Also in case of a plant cell, the inner membrane, that is known as the cell membrane. So what is the function of the cell membrane? Let's see. The cell membrane is also known as the plasma membrane. It is very flexible in nature. It is the outermost covering of animal cell, and it is the innermost covering of plant cell, because in plant cell there is also another covering which we are going to learn in the next slide. It is a semi-permeable membrane. So a very important point, that cell membrane is a semi-permeable membrane because it will not allow the entry of everything. It contains small pores through which only certain substances can enter, and it will prevent the entry of other substances. It is made out of lipoproteins, that is a combination of lipids and proteins. When you go to class 12, we are also going to study that the plasma membrane is actually composed of a bilayer, that means like a sandwich. So that is for class 11 and 12. I am not going into detail now. So what is the main function of the cell membrane apart from facilitating the enter of certain substances? It also maintains the shape of the cell, that is in animal cells. The animal cells are generally quite flexible in nature thanks to the plasma membrane. Because of its flexibility, because of its structure, the cell of an animal is quite flexible in nature. Also it is quite rigid because of the presence of the plasma membrane. Now coming to the cell wall. Cell wall is the outermost covering of plant cells. It is highly rigid in structure, and it is basically the reason why a plant cell is quite strong in nature. Let's see. The outermost covering, that is the dark green part like you can see in the figure, that is the cell wall. It is only found in plant cells. It is non-living and freely permeable. Unlike the cell membrane, which was a living part of the cell, and it is also semi-permeable in nature, the plant cell has the cell wall which is non-living in nature, and it is also freely permeable. That means it allows everything to enter through it. It is made out of cellulose, very important. It gives rigidity and shape to the cell. Since plants are more or less always exposed to the environmental conditions, therefore they need an extra layer of protection. This is the reason that they contain a cell wall, which is not just protecting it from the external environment, it is also giving a tough, rigid exterior to it. It provides protection to the cell, like I already discussed. Now, if you observe, this is a real life example, a microscopic image of a lens. This is a microscopic image of a cell, of a plant cell. As you can see, there is a cell wall and there is a cell membrane. The structures are so intertwined with one another, you cannot actually differentiate. Let me just zoom in for you guys. There are actually two layers. The topmost layer is the cell wall, and the inner layer is the cell membrane. And then you have other structures such as vacuole, nucleus, etc. You're going to learn about it later. Cell wall of bacteria is made out of peptidoglycan. This is a very interesting fact. And the cell wall of fungi is made out of chitin. Chitin is the same material using which the exoskeleton of insects are made out of. Okay, so not all the cell walls are composed of cellulose. It is also composed of different materials. Now talking about the cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is the jelly-like fluid inside the cell, and it not just contains the jelly-like fluid inside the outer part of the cell, or basically outside the nucleus. It contains all the other structures with it. That is, cytoplasm includes the cell organelles and also the jelly-like substance. Okay. It contains water, it contains soluble organic and inorganic compounds, and it also contains the various organelles. All the metabolic activities occur in the cytoplasm itself. Various chemical reactions, for example glycolysis, which is basically the respiration that we call cellular respiration, that also occurs in the cytoplasm itself. And basically every activity of the cell is happening in the cytoplasm itself. So cytoplasm plays a major role in the activities of the cell. Now there is also a term called protoplasm. Till the cell is inside the body of the organism, it is called protoplasm, and protoplasm includes the jelly-like substance inside the nucleus as well as outside, that is the cytoplasm. So you can say that protoplasm is the living part of the cell, and protoplasm is equal to cytoplasm plus the nucleus. But as soon as you're taking out the cell from the organism's body in order to study it, the cell does not stay alive anymore. So in that case, you are going to call the jelly-like fluid cytoplasm instead of calling it protoplasm. I guess it is clear. So in this figure, this dark blue colored fluid, like you can see, this is the cytoplasm, and these are the various organelles which are found inside. We are going to learn about them in the next slides. So the same picture once again. So the jelly-like fluid, this part, the light bluish fluid that you can observe, that is the cytoplasm. Now coming to endoplasmic reticulum. Endoplasmic reticulum is you can say is a bone to the cell. It provides a structure to the cell. It provides a framework to the cell. The cell in itself is a very squishy and soft structure, but the endoplasmic reticulum is making it tough. It is an irregular network of tubular double membrane arising from the nuclear membrane. As you can see in the picture itself, the endoplasmic reticulum starts from the outside of the nucleus itself, and it is very thin tubular structures. Basically they are like tubes, small tubes which are totally covering the entirety of the cell. They may be smooth or rough depending upon the presence of ribosomes. So we are going to study what are ribosomes. So ribosomes are tiny structures which either are staying on the top of the endoplasmic reticulum or they are around the cytoplasm. So when an endoplasmic reticulum consists of ribosomes on it, it is called rough endoplasmic reticulum, and the endoplasmic reticulum which does not contain those structures, it is known as smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Now, smooth endoplasmic reticulum helps in the synthesis and transport of lipids and fats. Since they have pipe-like structures, they help in the transport and synthesis of fats and lipids. Smooth endoplasmic reticulum, okay? And in case of rough endoplasmic reticulum, since they contain ribosomes on their outer surface, ribosomes are associated with synthesis of proteins. That means rough endoplasmic reticulum will help in the synthesis and transport of proteins. So from where do they transport these substances? From inside the nucleus to outside, that is from the nucleus to the cytoplasm. Whatever substances are being transported, it is done through the endoplasmic reticulum. Now as you can see, these are real life images of endoplasmic reticulum. Rough endoplasmic reticulums have tiny dots on them. Those are essentially the ribosomes, and smooth endoplasmic reticulums are utterly smooth, and they help in the transportation and synthesis of lipids and fats like we discussed. Now there is another important activity of the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, specifically in the liver cells. Smooth endoplasmic reticulum in the liver cells help detoxify various drugs and toxins. So whatever food or whatever materials we consume, so they contain a lot of substances which are extremely harmful for our body, especially medicines that we consume. So those toxins or those drugs which are not important for our body, they are detoxified by the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. But where? In the liver itself. So we know one thing, that liver helps in detoxification of the various toxins. So who does it in the liver? The smooth endoplasmic reticulum in the liver cells. Very important. Now coming to another cell organelle, that is a mitochondria. As you can see, it is sausage like, and it contains certain structures inside, some folds which have a given name. Let's see. They are sausage shaped and are double membraned. Inner wall has folds called cristae. So all these folds that you can see, these are known as cristae. They contain their DNA and ribosomes. So this is one of the cell organelles which contains its own DNA and ribosomes. Since it contains its own DNA, during cell division it can replicate itself. It does not need any activity of the nucleus. It can replicate on its own. It is called the powerhouse of the cell as it releases energy in the form of ATP, and it also helps in the synthesis of the enzymes which are required for respiration. So basically it is associated with production and the process of respiration and production of energy. This is the real life image of a mitochondria. As you can see, there are so many cristae inside, and actually it is black and white in an electron microscope. So these colors have been added so that you are able to understand the different structures. Now coming to Golgi apparatus, as you can see from the structure itself, it looks similar to endoplasmic reticulum, just the difference is it is not as long and as coiled as the endoplasmic reticulum. So let's see what is its use. They are also known as dictyosomes in plant cells. Stacks of flattened membrane sacs. It consists of structures such as tubules, vesicles, vacuoles. So as you can see, they are all flattened sacs, one on top of another. What is their major function? Like, I guess you know about packers and movers who pack objects and they move it to a different location. So the same work is that of the Golgi apparatus. Golgi apparatus are also the packers and movers in the cell. They perform the function of packaging materials to be delivered either inside the cell itself or outside the cell. So they are basically the transport agents. They form acrosome in sperm. In sperm, the head portion of the sperm consists of a structure called acrosome, which is very essential for facilitating the entry of the sperm into the ovum during the process of fertilization. So the acrosome of the sperm is produced by the Golgi apparatus, and it is also known as dictyosomes in plant cell. This name is important, and as you can, like I told you at the beginning, that it looks very much similar to endoplasmic reticulum. So it is formed from the endoplasmic reticulum only. These are aggregates of the endoplasmic reticulum. So this is a real life image, a microscopic image of the Golgi apparatus. Again, it has been colored in order to make it visible to the eyes, otherwise everything would look very black and white. Now coming to ribosomes, like we discussed before, ribosomes look like small spheres, but it is actually composed of two subunits, large subunit and small subunit. What is their role? You are going to study in class 12. So what are these basically? These are small granules and they are single walled, and they are either found in the cytoplasm, they are just scattered, or they are attached on the outer surface of the endoplasmic reticulum, and their main function is protein synthesis. As you can see in the figure below, this is a microscopic image of a rough endoplasmic reticulum in much detail. So the small structures, the dark colored structures that you can see, those are the ribosomes. So we are going to finish the session here today. In the next class, in the next lecture, we are going to discuss about the remaining cell organelles, and next year we are also going to see what is the major difference between plant cell and animal cell. So I guess you have understood till here, and it was quite interesting. Thank you, and stay tuned for the next lecture.